So about Mr. Barr, I think we need a steady hand at the Department of Justice, and I believe he provides that steady hand. It's not based on what I believe, it's based on his experience. If you wanted to pick an attorney general, it'd be a good thing to look at those who've done the job before and see if one of them would be willing to do it again. He got a voice vote for attorney general. He was a deputy attorney general. He was the head lawyer for the CIA, all by voice votes. I think he's had a reputation throughout his life of being a squared-away person. In terms of the memo, I actually agree with his nuanced position on the statute, and he doesn't say that the president can't be charged with obstruction of justice. Quite the contrary, a president can be, but there's a portion of the statute that he thought would not be wise to use as an obstruction cause based on firing somebody, which you have a lot of latitude for that. But the president, under Mr. Barr's beliefs, can be charged with obstruction of justice. Whether or not you indict a sitting president, I think that debate's been going on for like 40 years. As to the Mueller report, my main goal right now is to make sure Mueller finishes it without interference. I've tried to make sure he has the space to do that. As to Mr. Barr and how we handle the report, I just trust that he will make sure that classified information is protected. If there's a privacy concern, he'll protect that. But he will share as much as he reasonably can. And if I come out in a different space with him about his judgment, I'll sign on with Senator Blumenthal. I just want to give him a chance to exercise the discretion given to him under the regulation. And I trust him. I don't think he's auditioning for the job. As a matter of fact, if you knew the history of trying to get this guy to take the job, it was not much of an audition. I begged him. So the president's been, he can be a handful. That's just the way it is with President Trump. But he does ask people what they think, and he's asked me about the Attorney General. I said, you got a lot of good choices here, and he asked about Bill Barr, and I said, that would be a great choice, I think, because you know what you're getting. And he's got the judgment. He's at a time in his life where, he's got nobody to please, and he's not going to ruin his reputation late in life here. I'm confident of that. But I think it'd be fair to you, Mr. President. I think you will look at abuses at the Department of Justice that should be looked at. And but also you can expect from him to be fair to the public and true to the law. So the history of this nomination, I talked to him several times, reluctant to get back into public service, but I'm glad he made that choice, and I respect all my colleagues who are going to go in a different direction. But to the public, I believe of all the people President Trump could have chosen, Mr. Barr is at the top of the list. He's just really the kind of person I think, quite frankly, we need at the Department of Justice right now. As to the other judges, they've all had hearings. 19 of them have been voted upon. I think Senator Kennedy said it well. If I were president, there's some people I probably wouldn't pick. I'd pick somebody maybe you didn't like. But I've tried to say that elections have consequences. There are members of this committee running for president who are very talented. And I can tell you, once you get that job, if you get it, one of the big responsibilities is nominate qualified people to the court. And if one of you win, I'm sure you'll pick people differently than I would. And I'll try my best to make sure they get a fair shake. And the qualifications test seems to have died. And Scalia got 96 votes, and I think 98 votes, and Ginsburg got 96. Now, they're about as polar opposite as you can be in terms of judicial philosophy, but they turned out to be fast friends. And I don't know what's happened. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody, but there was a day that a very strong conservative and someone who was very much attached in terms of the liberal judicial philosophy sailed through this body, because how can you say Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not qualified? And same for Scalia. But we are where we are. Senator Leahy, I looked at his record. He's voted on 12 Republicans, voted for 6, against 6. Things are changing, and I don't know where to put the blame or a particular point in time. Strom Thurmond voted for Ginsburg. People mentioned Strom's name. There's no way you agree with her philosophy, but I'm glad he found her qualified. And Senator Hollings, Democrat from South Carolina, voted for Scalia, and I'm sure that's the same. I voted for everybody because I thought Sotomayor and Kagan were qualified. That's exactly who I'd expect a Democratic president to go look at. Some people like Sotomayor and Kagan, who have a pretty well-defined philosophy that's more in the less conservative camp. The Federalist Society, they're important on our side. These are a bunch of conservative lawyers. They do have influence. They do have input. And I expect, I don't know how a Democratic nominee comes up through the system, but I would imagine different groups on your side have input too. And we are where we are. So I'm thinking about doing a resolution going back to the 60-vote rule for the next president. Because I think the biggest mistake the body made was abandoning that. Because right now we don't need any of y'all, and there'll come a day you don't need any of us. And if I have to pick up a few of y'all, we're going to pick somebody a little bit differently, and vice versa. But I don't know what's going to happen if you get a Republican president, say a Democratic president, and you got a Republican Senate. I don't know how the hell you get anybody through. That's the collateral damage that's going to flow over time from abandoning the 60-vote requirement. And the thing about the 60-vote requirement, it was actually never used. No one, Senator Leahy in the Clarence Thomas case, which was very hot, he said he deserves to get out of committee. And that's just the way it was. And we're not bad people. Times have changed, not just because of us, but because of sort of the way people view the judge debate. It is a hot contest. Those running for president are going to say somewhere during the campaign, I'm going to make sure that I nominate somebody that will uphold Roe v. Wade. Now, you're going to say that, and Trump's going to say what he said before, but at the end of the day, we'll take your nominations and nominees, and we'll try to sort them out, and I will promise to vote for as many qualified people I wouldn't pick as possible, just to keep the system afloat. But the other point about circuit courts assigned to states, maybe we can find some agreement there, Senator White. I don't know how many Rhode Island gets, but I'd like us all to work together to say, you're not going to steal South Carolina's seats. Now, if there's a nut job going to be appointed for that circuit, at least it will come from Rhode Island. And maybe that's progress. But the bottom line is the blue slip, I'll try to make sure you're consulted and we find common ground if we can. If we can't, I am sorry. And we'll just do the best we can with this committee. And I know there's a lot of nominees on the schedule today, but all of them had hearings, all of them been voted, and this will soon pass and sort of get a chance to start over. Judges are important for what it matters. I didn't go to the conference. I went to Turkey, I think. But the bottom line is judges are important, but that's not the only thing. I think there's things we can do, I hope we can do on social media. I've got a flip phone, so I'm not the one guy you'd want to come to fix this problem. But it seems to me that somebody needs to do something about these big behemoth organizations that can affect everybody's life for good and bad. It's the Wild Wild West out there. And to Senator Whitehouse, we haven't been attacked yet, but we're eventually going to be attacked in a major Pearl Harbor type fashion on cyber. And when that day comes, nobody can accuse Sheldon Whitehouse of not trying to do his part. We're still have really no system in America to ensure that critical infrastructure and power and financial services, that there's an organized system to get the best product possible to protect the public. And so this cyber idea will take up. Senator Blumenthal, there's got to be a due process component, but I just have a hard time telling folks that we can't come up with a preventive system. When we know somebody is about to blow, family members and law enforcement need a chance to say, this person needs some help, not a gun. And in Parkland, Cruz did everything but take out an ad. He's going to kill somebody. Now, we can do better than that. So we'll have our fights, and they'll be fun, and Senator Lee is a problem solver and a fighter. And we'll talk about what questions to ask and what's in bounds and what's not. But time is precious, and I want to just make sure that going forward that we can take up topics that are worthy of this committee, not just the Republican Party. With that,
Mr. Chairman, can I just
Yes.
respond to